Okay, we have an excited, eventful night tonight. We have two wonderful guest speakers. I can't wait to hear what they have to say, and I can't wait to hear what questions my community will suggest to them about the things that they will communicate to you tonight. So I'm going to allow Jacqueline to come up and do the introduction for our first guest speaker of the night.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. I have the pleasure of introducing our acting chancellor for the DC Public School System, Dr. Lewis Farabee. Dr. Farabee is a chancellor of DC Public Schools, selected by Mayor Muriel Bowser in December 2018. Before joining DCPS, Dr. Farabee, a 20-year education veteran, served as superintendent of Indianapolis Public Schools beginning in 2013, where he employed transformation efforts to drive turnaround for low-performing schools and raise the district's graduation rate by 15 percentage points. During his tenure, graduation rates for Black and Hispanic students surpassed the district average, with Black students also surpassing the state average. Dr. Farabee also designed a student-based budgeting process, enabling schools to innovate in order to meet the needs of their students while improving transparency and equity around the distribution of resources system-wide. Prior to working for Indianapolis Public Schools, Dr. Farabee served for 3 years as Chief of Staff for Durham Public Schools. Yay, North Carolina. Where he reduced to zero the number of schools in Durham designated by state as low performing. He also worked for Guilford County Schools in North Carolina as a principal, where he was named Principal of the Year before serving as an Instructional Improvement Officer and Regional Superintendent. Dr. Farabee earned his doctorate in educational leadership from East Carolina University, yay, East Carolina, a master's degree in school administration from the George Washington University, and a bachelor's degree in elementary education from North Carolina Central University. In 2016, Dr. Farabee was named among Education Week's leaders to learn from. He also received Marian University's 2016 John A. Purdue Innovator and Mentor of the Year Award. Dr. Farabee currently serves on the Board of Trustees for the College Board. Please join me in welcoming to our microphone this evening, Dr. Lewis Farabee. Pirates.
So, thank you for that wonderful introduction. When I get that introduction, I always like to share with people that I'm a proud member of the family business, raised by two educators who are first-generation college graduates, and elated that I am in the same profession as my parents. I also want to recognize one of my colleagues who's here with us tonight. Dr. Unique Morris Hughes is here. And we will actually be collaborating tonight and sharing with you a lot of the information that is in the budget books that were at the table as you were coming in. I want to be sure that if you don't have one, that you get one of these. In this, you will find the priorities and budget highlights in the mayor's proposed budget, which is in the final stage of approval by the council right now. And tonight I will highlight some of the priorities as it relates to education. I am told that this group is very passionate about education, which I appreciate, and recognize that our ability to educate our young people well really impacts the quality of life, not only for those students, but for the entire city. So a couple things that I will note, and then I'll share generally what our priorities are in DC Public Schools right now and what we're thinking about. So in the budget book on page 2 and page 3, there are some highlights that I want to point out that are really important for the community and also DC Public Schools. So first and foremost, there's been much conversation about the need for affordable housing. In the mayor's proposed budget, there is an investment for affordable housing of $130 million that we believe will impact our families. As families are more comfortable with housing, we know that students are more comfortable, and then we're better able to support them in school. Also, there are investments for safety and transit as well. And I highlight those because we hear from our students and our families that they're often concerned around safety with students getting to and from schools. So I just want to lift up those investments. But if you turn over to page 3, there are several investments that are highlighted related to schools. One is we're increasing the overall funding to schools by $56.4 million, which is a big investment for our schools as we think about the funding they received in last fiscal year 19 and what's being proposed in fiscal year 20. In my listening to it, my first couple months on the job, a lot of what I heard from family members and community members and students is the need to invest in technology in our schools. And so you also see that there's an investment of $4.6 million to bring additional technology in our schools, which is an initial investment of a multi-year investments in technology to ensure that we get one-to-one technology in our schools, which that means that every student will have access to a device. And we're starting with grades 3, 6, and 9 to ensure that we're 1 to 3, and the ultimate goal is to get to 1-to-1. We are also continuing to make investments in our schools that have struggled with student achievement. And so you can see that we've made investments in the Anacostia and Baloo feeder patterns, and that investment is approximately $1.6 million. We also note that we're investing more in our schools that are offering dual enrollment for high school students. We're also investing more in early childhood education. We have an investment of approximately $52 million in early childhood education. And the beauty of that is it allows us to build and renovate additional classroom space, but it also allows us to expand the number of 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds that we're touching before they get to kindergarten. And we believe that's important because we know that when students go into kindergarten with the early literacy skills they need to succeed, they have overall better success in their educational experience. And I had an opportunity to see that firsthand in this community earlier this week. I was invited to be a guest reader in a pre-K classroom at C.W. Harris Elementary School, and had an opportunity to meet a parent who not only has a child in our pre-K classroom, but also has a child in our early learning classroom. And so this mother was dropping off a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and then she had 2 other children that were in 1st grade and 4th grade. And that is the type of experience that we want to offer to our families, that they have access to one-stop support. And in addition to the early learning experiences, we're investing in a connected school model where families now have access to support for housing, workforce development, job training, and the goal is to ensure that families can get everything they need at the school level. And so in this connected school model, there is a connected schools manager that brokers those resources for families based on their need. And again, we want all of our families to have access to what they need at the school level. And so if there's a need with health care, we have school-based health care options as well. And also in the budget, we're investing more in mental health supports. And so what we heard a lot from our families and our students is there's need for support for students that are struggling with trauma and other mental health challenges. So in the budget, there's an investment of $6 million that will be dedicated to enhancing our mental health supports in our schools. And so again, we want to ensure that our students are getting a well-rounded experience in school, and that many services that students and families need, they don't have to go outside of their school environment to receive those supports. We're also continuing to monitor enrollment in our schools over the spring. I know that there was some concern at H.D. Woodson High School that we did not have the appropriate supports in their budget for them to provide the level of experience that they've been provided in the past. So we're continuing to review that. We also are continuing to ensure that at the middle school level, we are building out robust experience for students that will prepare them for high school. So as you think about at each level, the DCPS plan for elementary age is to continue to provide more early childhood education experiences so students get a strong start. For middle school, we want our middle schools to be more rigorous in preparing students for high school. And at the high school level, our plan is to build out our career and technical education pathways to give students the ability to have career-related experiences in the classroom, preparing them for college and career. Many of our students have expressed interest in career development in high school, so if students choose to do so, they can go directly to work right out of high school. And for many students, this could be the new college for them without debt, because many times if they can go into the workforce, get a job, their employers will pay for their higher education expenses if they decide to go directly to work right out of high school. What we do know is that many of our students that are in career-based curriculum in high school have better attendance, better grades, and they perform better in post-secondary experiences when they leave DCPS. And so we want to ensure that all of our students, when they graduate, they are prepared to have a fair shot, to earn a livable wage, to take care of themselves and their families. So again, our technology, our connected school model, continue to expand early childhood education, and also ensuring that our students are receiving the supports they need in the building, and doing that in concert with the family as much as possible are all our priorities. Last thing I would leave you with is you should also know that DCPS is leading with home visits. So again, I go back to a recent visit to C.W. Harris Elementary School. We have all throughout the building photos of our staff members in homes connecting with our staff members and their families. DCPS has had thousands of home visits, and the goal is to meet families where they are, to learn about their children in the home, and hear directly from parents and guardians how we can best support them. So again, I just wanted to ensure that you knew that that was happening as well. So I think I see a couple of hands. I want to be sure that I follow protocol in terms of how we respond, but I want to also ensure that you understand some of the priorities in our budget. So with that, I'll stop, and I think I saw a hand in the back, and so I'm happy to respond.
I just want to say that we've lost about 3 generations. You've got great grandparents, you know, raising these kids and helping these kids with their reading, writing, and arithmetic, okay? And we've lost so many. So this is what you are all about now, and trying to get these kids ready instead of going to jail.
Yeah, so so to get students ready, one, we want them to start strong, which is why we believe the right investment to a strong start is ensuring that instead of students are at home when they're 2 or 3 or 4, is let's get them in school as early as possible.
Parents have got to do something too. That's why you're making home visits.
Yeah, so we believe that we can make the best connection with parents at home, in their communities, in their neighborhoods, which is why we've invested a lot of time and energy in home visits.
You probably teach them how to read.
Yeah, so it's interesting, we have a new approach to parent and teacher or parent and guardian conferences. And so we not only spend time talking about student progress, but we lead families with activities what they can do at home to support their child, particularly with literacy, because we want all of our students reading at home, have books at home. We know to be a better reader, you need to read. And so we have a lot of people that are supporting us with that in the home, but also we have volunteers and mentors that come into our school and also read with students.
And another question is, are you going back to phonics or what?
Yeah, so we have what we call a balanced approach to literacy instruction. So it does include phonetics, but it also includes writing, and it also includes listening and speaking as well. And so we want to connect all forms of communication as we think about our balanced literacy approach. So you've got your phonemic awareness and your phonics. We want also connecting that with listening, speaking, and writing.
Okay, so we're going back to the old years. Okay.
Now, it was interesting, the one thing we haven't gone back to that we're discussing is we don't have a lot of cursive writing instruction in
That's
school.
another one.
But do they need that?
Well,
Yeah, that is the question. That's the debate.
yes,
Yeah.
then we need to start saying, sign your signature. Then we need to start.
Where's your evidence? Show me the
Yeah.
evidence. No, show me the evidence.
Yeah, we didn't give that to you to debate that tonight, but I just wanted to be sure that you knew that
Documents anymore. I mean,
it's something that we think about.
electronically
No,
signed.
mine is still in writing.
But they are. I'm just saying. I wouldn't tell nobody.
Next question
Everybody's not there.
Go ahead. But there are other reasons for cursive writing, not just to sign. I just want to say, it does help in other ways, but we have to think about it in the amount of time it's needed, and can we get that
We can
same
start
type
now.
of development through other things that are not cursive writing? So just for that purpose.
We need cursive. We need cursive.
Is there another question?
Is there another question, ma'am? Yes, I think you were next. Yes, in the maroon.
Yes, hi. Welcome to the district.
Thank you.
I had an opportunity to hear you last Thursday at the New School Venture Fund, and I was wondering if you could give a little bit of detail about your thinking on the integration, segregated school conversation that's going on nationally and in DC in terms of racial, ethnic, and linguistic diversity.
Yeah, so I think part of our challenge with diversity in our school, so philosophically, let me start by saying I believe diverse learning environments are extremely beneficial for our students. However, many of our neighborhoods are not as diverse, and we do have racial and economic isolation in some of our communities. And so I think for us, how we think about creating diversity in our schools, when we know we have racial isolation in our community, is how do we begin to have choice and enrollment where students that are in communities that are isolated have the ability to choose choices, potentially that are more diverse, and then how do we begin to attract families that may bring diversity to schools that are not so diverse right now. We also have this dynamic that many of our school communities are changing. And so they don't look like what they used to look like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, which in terms of community relations has created some challenges for us. And we are working through that with some school communities because you have two factions of neighborhoods in many of our schools. You have those that have been there for a long time, and then we have those that are new to the community. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that, call that out, and be sure that we honor both perspectives. I think many of our communities have been challenged with balancing the perspectives and views of those that have been there and those that are also new to the community. But the more we can have diversity in our schools, I think we're preparing our students for success. However, if we don't have diversity in our schools, we still have an obligation to ensure that students have a quality education in the schools that are closest to their home. I think the hand back here was next, and then I've got two up here in the front.
Hi. So I have two children. One is in a public school down the street, Tyler Elementary. I noticed on page 3 that you said that you are investing $56.4 million more in DC public, traditional, and charter schools. So many of us are very concerned about the disproportionate number of charter schools in our community. We see them open and then they close a few years later. Can you talk about, is there any preferential funding in the budget to focus on improving traditional public schools, or is it just equal? Can you just share a little more about how that works?
Yes, so by law, there is a uniform per student funding formula. And that formula dictates how much DCPS receive per student and how much charter schools receive per student. And when the formula increases or decreases, it increases or decreases for both DCPS schools and charter schools. So any dollar that we receive in that per pupil funding, we're always focused on how do we, one, ensure that our schools are improving, but two, are also attractive options for families, so more families are choosing DCPS. And we do have schools where we're seeing more and more families are choosing those schools. A great example here in Ward 7 is we've invested in a language immersion program at Houston Elementary School, which many families have said to us that are interested. We want to continue to have those conversations with community of which curriculum options, which instructional programs are interest to families, and how can we bring those options to schools to attract families and ensure that we're serving them well. But that is how schools are funded, and is based on a formula that's driven by law. I think I saw 2 hands up here.
This past Thursday, I had the experience of attending a cooking competition at the Ami Shoreham, which was done by high schoolers that were representing schools for many of the states in the union. I attended at the invitation of my cousin, who's a chef, and she teaches students in Atlanta, Georgia, and her students won the right to represent the state of Georgia at this competition. And the kids were competing for scholarships to culinary colleges, but I was very disappointed that there was no team from the District of Columbia. So I'm just pointing that out to you. I hope that you can have someone in your office investigate this type of opportunity, because it was just disappointing to me that this cooking competition was being held in the district at the Omni Shoreham. Many of the states were representing, had high school teams representing them, and there was no team from the District of Columbia.
I share your disappointment. We have had, my understanding, historically a strong culinary program. As of recently, it has not been at a high level, and it is connected to our hospitality academy, which is really important because it gives students the opportunity to expand their options in the hospitality market here in the District of Columbia. And so we're working to ensure that we have a strong leader for that program to bring it back to promise. The other thing that I think is promising is we have a elementary program that incorporates food and cooking at the elementary level called Food Prints. That is really strong and has shown promise for exposing students to different types of foods and understanding healthy foods and how to prepare. But we are not there in our high school culinary program where we would have students competing at that level, and the expectation is that we get there. Yes, ma'am.
I'm very pleased to see the line item in here about the early childhood education centers at Old Minor and Old Randall Highlands, because I know both of those buildings have been empty for way too long. I just hope you can speak briefly about that. Are the entire buildings being renovated? Are the entire buildings going to be early childhood? And is this for neighborhood children, or is this the idea to attract early childhood from all over.
Yeah, so the goal is to attract students from the neighborhood for early childhood education. And the goal is to renovate as much of the building as we can to provide as many classroom space as we can for early childhood education.
Because I know you have to go.
Well, I do want to ensure that I give my colleague, so I introduced it earlier, but Unique Horseshoes is a part of the education cluster where we are partnered and we're thinking not only about K-12, but connecting K-12 with workforce development to ensure that our students have a pathway into the labor market here. And I want to just give Unique a few moments to kind of talk about our collaboration and some of the investments that are reflected in the current mayor's budget proposal.
All right. Thank you so much. So I think I heard someone allude to what about the parents. What I know for sure is when parents are gainfully employed, when grandparents that are interested in working and great-grandparents that are interested in working are gainfully employed with jobs and careers that can sustain a family and housing that is safe and reliable and affordable, it makes for the best situation possible for our young people. And so at the DC Department of Employment Services, we are charged with the mission of not only connecting people back to work, but providing meaningful training and then expanding career opportunities that exist for our young people. In addition to that, there are a couple of things that I want to share that you all might not know about, but it's important for you to know about. One of the new initiatives at the DC Department of Employment Services is actually standing up a paid family leave program. And so what we also know is that parallel to the investments in early childhood education, having the time that a mother needs for maternity leave, where she does not, and a father for paternity leave, where their jobs are not in jeopardy and that they're able to bond and care for a new child or maybe even a sick relative is very important. And so at the DC Department of Employment Services, starting July 1, 2019, we will start assessing a tax to all private businesses. So it means the same paid family leave benefits that district government employees have access to. There will be a comparable benefit system to non-district government employees. We are one of 7 states I know we're not a state, but we're marching towards statehood, but we're one of 7 states or jurisdictions in the country. We probably have the most progressive paid family leave program in the country. So July 1, 2019 is when businesses start paying taxes. July 1, 2020 is when we will start administering benefit programs to district workers that are working in private industry, where for a mother or father that wants to access maternity or paternity leave, there will be a maximum weekly benefit of $1,000 a week for 8 weeks. So that's a tremendous investment and effort, and it's parallel and important to the investments in early childhood education. Just a couple of other things to highlight. So the mayor's invested $37 million in the Homeward DC plan, which is to eradicate and minimize the occurrences of homelessness in the district, which is a significant challenge, but a lot of progress has been made as well. There's also $2.5 million invested to Safer Stronger initiatives, because we know that when our communities are safe, they are stronger, and that is also important in terms of the sort of community in DC that we are building. In addition to 2 other things I want to call out here. $2 million invested in a senior home program, which is really built on this theory of action of aging in place and aging safely in place. And so what that program does is provide grant funding to support repairs and improvements in the homes of our seniors for up to 400 seniors across the city. And then another $8.3 million in our Great Streets and Neighborhood Prosperity Fund, which helps to continue to spur economic development in the District of Columbia. And then one final thing about the DC Department of Employment Services is that one of our hallmark programs, which is the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program, we are celebrating our 40th year of the Summer Youth Employment Program. Clap for that. Some of y'all might have been in the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program. We're really excited to partner with Dr. Farabee and continue to work with all of the agencies in the education cluster to make sure that our young people not only have summer jobs, but they have career experiences that are going to lead them to a career. So I'm happy to take any questions. You all might have more questions for Dr. Farabee, but I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Yes?
I have one more question.
Okay. For Dr. Farabee?
I don't care who answers it.
Okay.
Is it possible to bring back some of these high schools, you know, the technical high schools for automobile mechanics and all of those? This is what we really need. I mean, I don't know why they closed it down. Vocational schools.
Yeah, so when I was referencing career and technical education, that is what I was referring to. So giving students the ability to earn credentials and certifications in high school so they can go directly into the workforce. And one of those that was referenced earlier is our culinary program. And I want to go back to your comment about the culinary program. I just got a message that the Blue students, where we have the Hospitality Academy in the culinary program, recently did compete in a national culinary competition in this May of 2019. So I do want to share that.
Why weren't they there last week?
Not sure about that one. Not sure about that one, but
There's a
again,
lot of scholarship money being offered at like almost every state elementary.
we have taken that and we will definitely take that back to our team. But we have, to go back to the career technical education, we have heard that from a lot of our students and our families. And given the labor market, there are a lot of good paying jobs where students can go into the workforce right out of high school. We just need to ensure that we give them the ability to earn those credentials and those skills. So I'm gonna take right here, and then I see two hands in the back, and we're gonna turn the agenda back over to our facilitator. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, many of us are familiar with Mr. Raymond Bell and the HOPE project and the IT program that he has targeted for the 18 to 24-year-olds and the just awesome work that he's doing with getting the young people certified and prepared for very professional, high-paying IT jobs. It's a very successful program they've had for 9+ years now. In fact, they used to be in the community before the development started at the now Penn Branch shopping center. So can you share with us, what are you doing to connect with organizations and companies like that to help prepare our youth for jobs in the district?
So I actually just had breakfast with Mr. Bell this morning, talking about the same thing. We love the HOPE project. So one of the ways that we're connecting with the HOPE project and similar programs is through our DC Infrastructure Academy. And so at the DC Infrastructure Academy, we opened a little over a year ago. It provides job training for DC residents that are interested in careers in infrastructure. So IT infrastructure is a career pathway that's listed. So Mr. Bell's program is so popular, there is a waiting list. I literally have probably 150 people on a waiting list for that program. But Mr. Bell's program, because it's such high quality, isn't a cheap program, right? We don't necessarily want it to be cheap. But we do take into consideration the amount of funding that we have allocated for it, which is part of the reason why we have a wait list, because we're not able to fund the entire program in its entirety. And so we'll continue to connect with Mr. Bell. We'll continue to connect with other IT providers like Bite Back. OIC offers some training. But one of the things that we've had to do at DOES is double down on quality. When I started in the agency, we were paying organizations what you could probably pay a year of tuition in college for like retail certifications. And last time I checked, you don't necessarily need a certification to work at H&M, right? And so I had to make a very difficult decision to double down on quality, fund organizations like Mr. Bell and the Hope Project that lead to careers. I don't knock retail because I think there is a career in retail, but I want to provide our district residents with options to choose from. So we'll continue to work with Mr. Bell, we'll continue to fund IT programs, and my goal is by the summer to eradicate the waiting list and serve even more district residents than we have now.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What are you all going to do about UDC Community College? You know, there's a lot of illiterate kids up there who graduated out of DC public school system. Now they're at UDC with no, are you all connecting with that as well?
So I can talk a little bit about the partnerships that we have at UDC through the Workforce Development. Actually, let's take a step back and let's talk a little bit about literacy and adult literacy. Actually, at probably the last 3 hearings I've had last month, there's been a lot of discussion about adult literacy and how we in labor are creating opportunities for like occupational literacy, how we can teach someone reading and numeracy or upskill or build their skills and then help them get employed at the same time. Because many of the people that I come in contact with don't have the luxury of time or choice to choose to go to reading class versus getting back to work, right? And so we want to put options out there for people who are interested in pursuing beyond secondary or high school opportunities to increase their literacy and numeracy skills, but we also want to honor the choice that people are making to go to work or stay at work. So we at DOES have funded a lot of GED programs. We partner with UDC to offer work-based learning, which means part of the day you are in school, the other part of the day you're getting occupational skills and you're earning a wage. But that has been our solution to getting people to work and then teaching them the important literacy and numeracy or academic skills that they need to be successful in the workplace.
Can I? About Upward Bound, I feel like that is.
Thank you.
I feel like Upward Bound is very pivotal into just even exposing high schoolers and kids to the college experience and to even introduce them to even wanting to open up to journey going to college. And I know at one point there were options of stipends even when you went to Upward Bound. Are you guys still investing in those type of programs?
So we have a very similar
question.
So the question was about Upward Bound. Do we have programs that are, do we have Upward Bound? At one point in time, there was a stipend offered for participants or high school students that participate in Upward Bound. Are we continuing to do that? So we have what we call the Marion Barry Youth Leadership Institute, which is almost synonymous with Upward Bound. It's in its 40th year. Students earn a stipend during the year. And then during the summer, their summer job or their summer career experience is on a college campus full-time where they earn a SYP wage. So that is one way that we are introducing people to post-secondary education. Another thing I should mention is that 2 years ago, we started the Mayor's Opportunity Scholarship under Mayor Bowser, which is a $2,500 book scholarship or scholarship if you've decided to go to career and technical school or even the military. Our first year we gave out 75 awards. Last year we gave out, I think, 65 awards, and we'll do the same this year as well.
Last question, ma'am. Hello, good to see you again.
Good to see you. I wanted, Bard was well received when he came here to speak. So I wanted to advocate for Bard being placed in this community. There are some places that are potentially available. I also want to advocate for, when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and having more integrated schools, that in order to support BARD and support kids who are coming from the other side of the river to come to BARD, east of the river, that you're going to need a dedicated circulator to support that. So I want to put that on the table.
I'm glad you mentioned that circulator again. So in the last, since you mentioned the circulator, I actually went back to City Administrator's Office, DDOT, and that is a consideration to have circulator connect in the schools in Ward 7. So
we really need a commitment to more integrated, and our kids should not bear the burden of having to go across the city to get a quality education. And so the circulator will help, and I'm still advocating for BARD to be placed in this community. That's one thing. The other thing is, as you know, Ward 7 schools took a huge budget cut. What are we going to do to ensure, I know today was a lot of discussion, there was a lot of activity at the DC Council, but what are we going to do? Because 7 was disproportionately impacted by the budget cuts this year. How are you going to ensure that we have quality in Ward 7 schools? And our schools, Randall Highland being one of them that was disproportionately impacted, we're losing a lot of teachers. How can you ensure that we're going to still have quality education if we don't get this funding situation under control?
So we'll go back to...
Can I add one question to her, what you just posed about the, about BARD College? Is that part of the budget? You said when you were talking about dual enrollment, is BARD part of that?
BARD is a part of dual enrollment.
Is that the only one?
No.
Are there additional schools coming in?
So for the additional dual credit options that are coming on board for the 1920 school year, Coolidge High School, which is a partnership with Trinity University, and then BARD in partnership with BARD College. And so I do want to just share with the entire group, when we talk about dual credit, we're referring to the opportunity for high school students to earn college credit in high school. And the goal is for high school students, when they graduate, to earn their high school diploma and an equivalent to an associate's degree when they graduate. So they can take that college credit with them when they graduate. And so instead of having a 4-year experience, it could be a 3-year experience or a 2-year experience. And we're trying to jumpstart their college experience. And also, it's no cost to the student. And so the students are eliminating some of the expenses associated with college tuition. BARD is an option, our only option right now that we have east of the river. Would love to hear your suggestion of the location, but it is an option that has attracted students across all 8 wards, and we're excited about students entering that school for the 1920 school year. In our question, you should know that right now there's not a permanent site for the school, and we're looking to identify a permanent site for the building. There was lots of budget discussions today. I don't know where we'll land. We will have final numbers from the council and their approval of the mayor's budget by May 28th, I'm told. Once we know exactly what the final numbers are, we will definitely come back and look at what additional resources we have and how we allocate those resources to schools, particularly with a focus on Ward 7 and Ward 8. Thank you all. Appreciate it. I'm sorry, one more?
One last question.
Yeah, it's not for you, Chancellor. I think you got beat up enough from.
Oh, okay.
So, no, they were told, to be honest, Ward 7 been told exactly what we need to hear. We know that we need more funding for our schools, and we want to definitely for you all to fight for the Ward 7 schools. So that's what I'm saying. But to be clear, it's for DOS. So One thing I never heard about, I didn't even talk about the soft skills and the teaching of the soft skills for the Summer Youth Employment Program. Also, as going around listening and going to these different agencies and different entities, Ward 7, one thing that I've just seen is that they're not doing what they're supposed to do. You have kids that's in there, they're doing hair during the times that they're supposed to be working, and smoking, they're doing all kinds of other stuff besides doing actual work. So it's not just a question, I just really hope that you are doing a good job as far as tracking and making sure that you're placing these kids somewhere in which that they can get real life skills and get some soft skills when they go out into the workforce as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's not only the good question, but the right question and comment to ask. Two things on, one thing on the soft skill and then a comment about, I'm going to call it career or job placement for SYEP. On the soft skills component, that is, I really say it's the cost of entry to any DOES work readiness program. In every single program we have, there is a soft skills component or 21st century skills. We recognize that if you cannot understand the importance of getting to work on time, there are chances that there's a strong chance or indicator that you are not going to make it the first year at a workplace, right? If you don't know how to dress appropriately, then there is a strong indication that you will not be successful. And so soft skills is a very important component. It is the cost of entry at any DOES program, and we include it. What I think should be happening, and what we've tried to do is we double down on quality, is that not every soft skills program is created equal. And not every soft skills program is high quality. I think that it should be research-based, it should be tested and tried and true. And what I require is that if you're not teaching people about the importance of resume writing and having a strong social media or appropriate social media profile and getting LinkedIn, then your soft skills training is out of touch, because those things are equally important. People don't understand the importance of social media etiquette, but people will Google you if you're searching for a job. And we teach our folks that. So we have had to do a refresh. And unfortunately say goodbye to some of our soft skill providers that were not teaching 21st century skills, but we know it's critically important to making sure that people are competitive. That's the first thing. And that's across the board, young people or adults. On the SYEP host site placement, I couldn't agree with you anymore. I do not desire to see another young person doing a young person's hair instead of doing something that's really important. I go across the city and oftentimes across the country and talk about how SYEP is a model. And I really believe that it is, but improving the quality of the experience is something that we're laserly focused on, which is why we've increased the number of private sector hosts that we have, and we now have a very rigorous host site orientation that we provide to people. What we found the year before is that we had not given people, host sites, private sector employers, a blueprint on what to do with an intern. We just would place them there and then expect that magic would happen. Well, that's not the reality. And so what we did is create a blueprint. We created sample daily schedules, we created activities, and then we also added weekly professional development opportunities where youth had to get permission from their host site employer, but to attend like a soft skills 21st century weekly training component. So that's the right thinking, that's what we're focused on. And we've actually, again, had to say goodbye to some host sites just because young people were not properly supervised. I say I'm an educator in recovery, but you can't ever really get that far away from it. But a former teacher, adjunct professor, worked at PBCCA May, I take it very serious. Having young people in our care and possession over the summer as if it was my own three-nager that I have. So I take it very serious. I personally visit host sites, and we've doubled down on quality on placement and activity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. I felt like we didn't do Unique right by giving her the proper introduction. But I like how you guys bogarted up here and really gave our community the information that they needed. We definitely need more resources and more essential tools that will prepare our young youth to be prepared for the workforce. So it sounds like a lot of good things are in the works. It's our responsibility as a community to hold them accountable to everything that they said today. So unless we are going to do that, you know, we can't have the level of expectation and not follow up with them to make sure that they actually follow through. So thank you again for taking time out of your schedules to come here and talk with us today. We're just jumping around a bit. So Kyle, do you want to get up and go over the minutes from our last meeting?
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
So last meeting was April 9th, 2019. We heard the crime report, understood that violent crime was up a little bit. Then we read and accepted the minutes. Also, Joan McKenzie from the community provided an update on the yard sale. I invite you again if you want to flag the yard sale and put in a plug for the date.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that the yard sale is on June 22nd. We do have flyers out if you want to take a flyer. I have sign-up sheets that only if you haven't signed up, if you are interested in either renting a table or volunteering, you can fill it out. And we're trying to get payment by May 20th because we do need to order the tables. So for people who want to rent tables, please get your payments in to me by May 20th. Okay, and the yard sale is going to be here at the parking lot, the Pennsylvania Avenue Baptist Church parking lot, and it's from 10 to 3.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very
And
much.
also, we are taking donations day of between the of 8 and 10 of lightly used items that are in good condition that are likely to sell. But it's just the morning of, because we will have a community table where we'll sell donated items for the to benefit Penn Branch Penn Branch community citizens community.
PBCCA.
I'm sorry, could you tell me the date again?
It is June 22nd, and the rain date is June 29th.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also at last month's meeting, we had several guest speakers. We had a representative from Casey Trees come to talk about the forest bathing initiative that happened on April 20th. And we had Tony Start from Jerry Lynch Development Partners who gave an update on the construction work that's happening at the shops at Penn Branch. Then we also heard from Dr. Jelon Washington Burton, who I think has taken off for the evening, but she spoke about pediatric healthcare and her new home-based business, Healthy Home Pediatrics, which does house call medicine in the neighborhood. And then we also heard from our ANC Commissioner, Mr. D.L. Humphrey, who we also just heard from a few moments ago. We got the treasurer's report and had a closing balance of $2,689.41, and then had brief committee reports on the bylaws initiative, block captains, and also the Deanwood Recreation Center. Are there any questions about last month's meeting minutes? Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes as read.
Second?
Second.
All right. Meeting minutes accepted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. At this point, we would like to ask Lieutenant Jameson to come up and give us a update on our neighborhood crime situation. And after Lieutenant Jameson, we'll have a representative from ANC 7B give us information about the crime initiative for 7B.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The crime is so-so in 605. Violent crime is down by 14%. The property crime is up by 50%, for a total overall crime increase of 34%. As you probably well know and looked on the news, that crime is kind of up. in DC, especially in this area of 60. We've seen a lot of violent crime over here. I think it's about 58 homicides already this year. 25 of them over here at 60. So that's a lot. And probably about 100 shootings. In law enforcement terms, shootings are just homicides and not completed, basically. They're not throwing bullets at you because they like you. So, with that said, I'm gonna go over some of the crime we had in 605. We had 4 ADWs, one in the 1400 block of 42nd Street, one in the 4300 block of 7th Avenue. We also had a fatal traffic accident there in the 4300 block of Central Avenue a couple of Fridays ago. I was on. A 23-year-old guy was, after they just finished the paving, they put down these stripes, and I believe he was in the crosswalk where the vehicle hit him, struck him, and killed him. I was on the scene of that. Still, the guy jumped out the car, left the car there. He rolled down the street and left the guy there in the middle of the street. We haven't found that guy yet. We do have the vehicle, which is a rental car. So hopefully our major crime section will follow up with that and hopefully get the driver of the vehicle that did that. We also had a shooting in 3800 block of Alabama Avenue that was inside of his vehicle. The passenger shot the driver. That should be a closed case because obviously you don't ride strangers around in your vehicle, so pretty much you know who did that. We had one robbery, 47 block of Alabama Avenue, 2 burglaries, 1000 block of 30th Street and 4000 block of Alabama. We had 7 stolen autos, 1000 block of 31st Street, 39 block of Penn, 27 block of Fairlawn, 12 block of 42nd, 32 block of O Street, 41 block of Southern Avenue, and the 39 block of Alabama. There was 12 thefts from autos or vehicle break-ins, 1200 block of Chafin Street, 27 block of Fairlawn, 1300 block of 31st, 37 block of O Street, 2200 block of H, 3000 block of Penn, 1500 block of 42nd, 2900 block of Nash Place, 3000 block of Pope Street, 2900 block of O Street, and the 41 block of 7th Avenue. There was 15 thefts. That's who drove up the property crimes. This is my last meeting as Lieutenant Jameson. I'll be Mr. Jameson next week. After 31 years of MPD, I decided to retire would be effective next week. But I still live in Fairfax with us. I'm not going anywhere. I'll probably pop in at the meetings and whatnot. And but I will see y'all out there as I normally do. I'll see a lot of places here that I see anyway. Take a couple of months off to decompress from this career and probably start back after work after Labor Day, and I might come back to MPD, who knows. But I don't plan on stop working, but I do plan on taking a break. And I was just talking to the young lady about that earlier, that I just need to decompress for a minute. A lot of stress involved in this career. Yes, ma'am, you had your hand up.
I did, around our neighborhood, I think it's on Nash Street. Someone broke into a lady's, into a house. I think it's Nash. And they
Was that recently?
Yeah, I think it's been about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
They came in through the window. They lifted the window. Now they're lifting your windows, so if you need to have some locks on it, you know, so they can't lift it up but so high and get their body through, because they stole all her jewelry and everything. And I noticed one day when I came home, they had tried to up my window, but because I have locks on it, they couldn't get it up any more than that. And I know I normally don't leave that window open in that room.
What block of Nash Street was this? Because I didn't see that on my crime report, that's why I asked.
You didn't?
No, did she report it?
I'm sure she did, because they lost quite a bit of money.
Okay. Next.
What are you doing about people driving around with no car insurance, hitting other people? What had happened, somebody hit my son from the back, they hit him so hard, he landed on Southern Avenue. He landed on Prince George's County side. But he called, they sent out PG, but they said this was a DC.
It was on Southern Avenue?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, all the street, Southern Avenue belongs to all the DC, correct?
Right. So, but the officer was kind enough to stay there and wait till DC got there.
Okay.
Because they messed the car up so bad in the back. But unfortunately, he has car insurance. He does have full car insurance. My son was upset with me. What they did, they went to get the tape from the complex where it happened at. But I was wondering, well, what happened? My son was so mad he ended up leaving the scene anyway, but because he was upset. But because of the incident, but he was trying to look for the guy, but the people in the room said, no, we're gonna give it to the authorities because you're still upset and you didn't try to go out to retaliate. But he did lose a lot of time off of work, and this big insurance company did reimburse him, but that was an issue. We have too many DC drivers riding around with no car insurance, and they just slam the people in the back and just keep right on going.
What's your question?
What are they doing?
Oh, well, I can tell you this. If you don't have insurance in DC, you got a DC license, your license is suspended. Yeah, you should have insurance when you apply for a license in DC. If you let your payments lapse or anything like that, they can suspend your driver's license. Usually, with accidents, it's usually civil. So insurance companies go after the people who hit people who don't have insurance and stuff like that. It's not the rest of the offense not to have insurance, it's just a civil matter. Any more questions?
So Lieutenant Jameson, was the burglary report on 3600 block of Texas Avenue?
Okay, the only burglaries I had was the 1000 block of 30th and the 4000 block of Alabama.
There was a break-in on the 3600 block of Texas Avenue.
Did it report it?
Yeah, they had contractors working on their home. Somebody broke in and stole the supplies from the contractors. And apparently, and then a few days later, they actually found the supplies being sold on the web.
Okay.
So, and apparently that's a new trend in DC.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is being sold on the internet, that's for sure. And it was what street was that on?
3600 block of Texas Avenue, the third house from the corner.
Because
was that within the last 30 days, do you know?
The contract was
Yes.
today, and they said that the detectives had not gotten back to us at all.
They got report numbers?
I would assume so.
Yeah, they do.
They called me.
Because it was about 3 cop cars that came and showed up.
All right, they can call the 60 detectives office and find out why they have those numbers. All right. Sir?
I just want to know, Lisa, I know it's been a big uptick in shootings. I mean, and all over the country, there's actually been said some crimes have been going up with shooting incidents. But what are some of the trends or some of the causes that you all think have been some of the behind some of these shootings that have been going on?
A lot of it's retaliatory. I was on the scene of the triple homicide they had in Fort Davis earlier this year, and oddly enough, there was a gun in the car that was involved in another homicide on the road. Neighborhood beefs. Also, too, it's disturbing that the victims are getting younger and younger. I was on the scene on Kenilworth last Saturday night. The 13-year-old got shot. He's paralyzed for life.
Oh, gosh.
His mother, that's her second child that got shot this year. That's the stuff you don't see in the news. So, yeah, the victims are getting younger and younger. And then after that was an 18-year-old got killed in 7 days. Channel 4 had a video of a guy getting gunned down on Xenia Street. He was running for his life, and they jumped out of the BMW and shot him up. There's a lot of, it's not drugs anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't
But that-
the drug,
it's not drugs.
game so much.
It's different. Neighborhood squabbles going on social media, that's a lot of it. People having disputes over, parking space, you dating my lady or something like that. I haven't been on a whole lot of scenes where drugs involved. I was on a double homicide scene on Nash where a guy brought a gun and tried to rob the guy. He brought the gun from him. That guy pulls the gun out and kills both of them. I mean, it's just stuff like that that's going on that's causing all this carnage right now.
They said too, a lot of the.
Can't hear you.
15 and younger are committing a lot of
She said the kids 15 and younger committing a lot of crimes with guns. I wouldn't say that. Most of the people get locked up for the adults that I've seen. We had like, for example, some bones found over by 30th and Alabama a couple months ago. That was a suicide. That was a suicide, but he was identified and he had an open homicide warrant.
Oh, wow.
So he probably went into the woods and killed himself instead of going to jail for homicide. So, you know, we have that going on. So, yeah, it's just a whole bunch of stuff. It's all the above. I hate to say it like that, but it's basically all the above. I haven't seen one particular thing, but I can tell you that there's a lot of rounds being fired. I had a homicide on Alabama Avenue that 80 rounds were fired.
Did you say 80?
80 0.
Oh, wow.
Jesus. Into
0.
one human being?
Adam, I think he got hit about 17 times.
Oh, Jesus.
And those are rounds that are used as rifle rounds. If you remember back when the DC sniper was doing the killing back in the 80s or the 90s, those rounds are being found on a lot of homicide scenes. And they're really powerful and they just tear you right up. Yes, ma'am.
You know what? I go over to the Wellness Center just about every day.
30th in Alabama?
Yes.
Right.
And we really need security over there. I mean, we have security, but we need a policeman over there with a gun. Because wherever there's a mass of people, you never know what'll happen. And we do have quite a few senior citizens over there, all through it.
Right, that's what the suicide was. Right, it was right
We
behind
really
it.
need a policeman with a gun. We have security, you know, but we don't have a gun over there.
Yeah, I mean, when I retire, I'm keeping mine.
Don't blame
And come over there to the senior citizens.
Yeah, I'll be over there rocking with y'all. Yeah, well, absolutely. I plan on doing absolutely nothing this summer. I understand what you're saying, Mel, absolutely. And I'll bring it to the attention of the commander.
And more of you need to come over here to the Wellness Center. You're seniors.
Any other questions or concerns I can pass along, because my time is short with MPD, but I'll make sure the right people get it. I don't know who's going to be replacing me. I was trying to bring the replacement to the meetings, but there's no replacement because everybody is pretty much leaving.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Yeah, well. And hopefully they'll have somebody replaced by the summer to come and do the meetings and whatnot, so. Okay. Well, I'll pop in. I'm not going anywhere. I'm a local guy. I was born and raised. I went to Phelps Vocational School myself. And, you know, it's a need for, vocational stuff, because everybody's not college. I know I wasn't. I didn't get my degree after I got in the police department myself. You know, Chief Lanier, she got in the department with a GED and got 2 masters before she left. So, I mean, you know, everybody's not cut off for college in the beginning, so we got to have our young people doing something. It was like a downward spiral. It's like these forerunners. These 4-wheelers almost hit me last Saturday coming up Pennsylvania Avenue. And, you know, the department's thing is, and I got some calls about it, that, you know, we can't chase these 4-wheelers and these dirt bikes because they might cause more problems than it solved by trying to trace them. But now they are in a bigger group, because I counted at least 125 of them that went by me. I mean, it was like unbelievable how many there were. You know, we do have the helicopter chasing them, following them around up in the air, but you know, it's painstaking trying to get these people identified. They're wearing masks, they're wearing guards over their faces, so you can't identify them, because now they know we can see them come to the speed cameras, we can see their faces, and now they're covering up their faces. So, you know, that's just the work in progress. Yes, ma'am.
Is MPD going to make an effort to have your replacement be somebody who lives in the community like you?
To be honest with you, I doubt it.
Is there a way for somebody who wants to, or at least somebody who lives part of the city, you know, one side?
It helps to have somebody live in the city, or you can help better than somebody in the city. You know the dynamics and stuff, and you see the stuff as you drive home. Because I grew up in the 13th block of Minnesota Avenue. And I went to H.D. Wilson, I went to Kimball, and I went to Azusa. So people like me are kind of like a dying breed right now, because they recruit from all over, everywhere else, but it seems like D.C. to me. But I will bring that to the commanders. There are lieutenants at 60 that live in D.C. Actually, one does live in 70 that I actually recommended, but I hadn't seen no movement on it yet, because I was going to bring that person here to the meeting before I left. But nothing's been said on that. But unfortunately, a lot of your police officials do not live in the city and are not from here. You know, we got officials live far as away as Front Royal, Virginia. That's a 90-minute drive. You know, but hey, yes, ma'am. I can't hear you. I can hear you.
I said, I was in the military, so I suggest we call Donald Trump and military people.
Now she can
No, I don't think we got that far yet.
You know
We don't need no military. Definitely want that. In fact, it's even, actually, you can't use the military to look them off.
We don't want Trump.
Lieutenant Jameson, we definitely want to know about your going away party that they put on for you. And on behalf of this community, we're just so thankful and blessed that we have had you here and showing up at every meeting possible to update us about our community and the concerns, and not only just updating us, but actually being passionate about what was going on in our community just as much as us. So thank you for your commitment. We appreciate you, and we want you to keep coming around.
I'm definitely coming around. I'm not going around. My house is paid for. I'm not going around. Thank you.
Okay, quickly, fast, I'm gonna let ANC 7B. Crime Initiative.
Thank you.
To speak and tell us what they're trying to do to make this turn about with the crime and issues that we're dealing with within our community.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yeah, in the back. Is Commissioner Humphrey still around? Chairman Humphrey? No.
Humphrey, yeah.
Get up, okay.
We need to make sure he's not outside. He's gone.
Okay. Well, we had Commissioner Chairman Humphrey as well. I'm Commissioner Smith McDermott for 7B04. And we had Valario Johnson, 7B05. So we just wanted to speak a little bit about the crime initiative that was initially spearheaded by Mr. Johnson, and the commission was on board with us kind of cracking down on the spike in crime that we've been seeing throughout our neighborhood. So I'll let Mr. Johnson go into.
So as Lieutenant Jameson spoke earlier about the triple homicide in Fort Davis, that was on January 27th, at the very beginning of this year. And since, there's been to date 10 or 11 highly visible, highly violent crimes where someone was either stabbed, shot, or killed. And 7B thought it would be in the best interest of the community to enter into some kind of resolution with a demand for the mayor and the police department. It has gained a lot of attention and ground and conversation in communities, on social media like Nextdoor, a host of group chats, and now we're bringing it to the neighborhood level, the association level, to try to get the associations to join on board. We've had ample conversations with all of the leaders of the 4 associations in 7B, south of Massachusetts Avenue, even Fort Davis. The leader of Penn Branch has been very involved in contributory, Randall Highlands, Hillcrest, as well as DuPont Park. And this is the second community group that we've been to. We went to Randall Highlands at the end of last month. They adopted the language and the idea and tailored it towards the unique crime issues and concerns that they have in Randall Highlands. We want to ask that you all do something similar, if not adopt it right out. What we will say is there's a few things that are germane to every community, south of Massachusetts Avenue. And the specific request is 4 things. A detail of 10 experienced and trained officers until October 1st. The belief is that we need additional officers to get us through the summer and to monitor the neighborhood, mostly on foot, Segway, or bike. 2, a permanent police presence in those areas with the most traumatic violence or consistent nuisance acts have occurred, i.e. police car, mobile units, lights, cameras, etc. Weekly community walks in hot spots with the ANC or community leaders and their appropriate agency leads who can affect change. I don't know if this has happened down here in Hillcrest. They've started with community walks, something you can bring down here to bring attention to growing your neighborhood, partnering with your residents, new and old, established and young, to get community involved. And then resources for safety campaigns within each specific PSA, which MPD has already verbally and in writing committed to doing. The reason why we think these 4 things are really critical to the specific needs in 7B is because we have to stimulate and engage the residents. The problem MPD presents to us is that we don't have communities of people who are engaged in activities that create violence. The issues that we've been experiencing this year are one-offs. They're not of our community, they're not people in our community, but it's happening in our community. The Fort Davis issue, those folks were not even connected to this side of town. The shooting from the Beers, they wasn't connected to this side of town. The shooting on Southern Avenue where the construction worker died wasn't connected to our side of town. So they're having some challenges trying to really prevent these random acts of senseless violence because there's no history, there's no relationship, they don't live in our neighborhood. So these 4 things would kind of make us feel good and empower us, because one of the responsibilities of the MPD is to reduce the fear of crime. There are some people who say you can't police your way out of this and police don't prevent crime, but they do deter it and they do make us feel safe. And then when we do partner with police, we can prevent a lot of things from happening as a team. So the request today is that these 4 items in the community's own language, Penn Branch's own language, be adopted and advanced along with this. This will become a resolution Thursday night. All the commissioners have signed on, and a letter has been sent to all the appropriate entities, the mayor, the council, chief of police, a couple of agency heads. So we believe that we're stronger together, and that if all the communities in ANC 7B agree that we can get a demand for service. And I want to stress that for whatever reason they believe that communities south of Massachusetts Avenue 7B aren't in the greatest need, but if you look at crime statistics, we ended up with 7 murders this year and they had no murders last year. So any other community across this town would be seen as a great need. So we have to push that demand to get what we want for our community. Well, I don't have voting rights on that.
No.
Yeah, I have one question. You all have seen Pastor Banks and the other churches correlate together to curtail the crime here in these Ward 7 when they had a shooting at East Washington Heights on that parking lot area? Did you all reach out to them about this? Because they have been doing something for, I think, for the last 2 months now.
So Pastor Banks, he was engaged by Officer Prasad, who is leading these community walks. I know he had an interest in an op-ed piece in the Washington Post, expressing how he felt about the situation. But I think people are doing something. Communities are, people and residents are doing something. He has a right to express how he felt, but he is involved, and he was involved by MPD and the residents that go to that church that live in the community. Okay.
No, just said, did you all reach out to them to see if they want to join the organization that you all talking about?
Meaning, you asked me, did we ask the churches to sign on to this resolution? No, we didn't. Just thought about the people who live in the community. Unfortunately, Pastor Banks doesn't live in
Well, he has community leaders, people that.
He does.
Right.
He does, and they are involved.
Right.
They're all involved. Like the Savages and a whole host of other people that live in the media community are involved. We have like an email group of about 100 people talking about this. So there's a great deal of involvement. We just need organized voices now, if that's okay.
So I'm going to switch gears for just a second. On April 22nd, I received myself, Councilmember Vincent Gray, Chairman D.L. Humphrey, we received a certified letter in the mail from the Department of General Services regarding 3200 Pennsylvania Avenue. And the ask, or the letter just basically states that the plan for 3200 Pennsylvania Avenue is for the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, which is OSSI, to occupy that space with a 10-year lease term with 5 one-year option periods attached to it. I sent the letter out to a few of the community members, which I had contact information for, but I did want to bring this information forth to the Penn Branch meeting today. And my ask is that if there are any questions or concerns that may be surrounded by OSSI occupying the space at 3200 Pennsylvania Avenue, that those be submitted to me so that I can formally submit them forward. I'll read some of the language that's in the letter. So DGS respectfully requests that the commission include this notice and subject matter hereof on the agenda of a meeting held in a timely manner so as to provide DGS with the commission's recommendations within the time period provided. Some of the recommendations that they are requesting, for example, DGS would like to know if the commission has any recommendations or concerns as to pedestrian safety around property, traffic flow around property, operational hours for the property, or noise and light pollution generated at the property. So those are some of the items that they would like feedback from our community regarding OSSI moving into 3200 Pennsylvania Avenue. Yes.
Do we know which department of OSSI is coming? Because
No, I got your message about that, and I did send that information forward asking that. I have not received a response back as far as which department will be occupying that space.
And not that I'm against them coming, but in terms of traffic, it depends on what department is coming. Some departments have, so for instance, let's say that DC Tag is placed there. That's going to be a high-level traffic department as opposed to another department. So that's why I think we just need to see clarity so we'll know and anticipate the level of traffic that will be associated with it.
Okay, definitely.
What'd you say?
No, I was saying I agree, because I thought it was interesting that they would pick the location over here to house one of their departments, so.
I actually think it's a good thing that they're moving our IC department here. I mean, honestly, but I do want to know the level of impact of traffic, because some are just office spaces and they have no traffic, and then others are customer service, public facing departments, and they have a tremendous amount of traffic. And I suspect they're going to move one of the public facing ones because people have complained of having to go down on M Street, can't find parking, and it's very expensive. So I imagine that one of the public facing ones will move here, and so I think we just need to know which one it is.
Yes.
So, to piggyback on what Mama just said, do you know if the functions going to occur in that building? Because I do know of another space that OSSI is currently using, but they're using it for the nutrition staff. So do you know what's going to be going on?
No, so the letter that I received, it does not specifically state what the functions are. It just has that the square footage that they're planning on using is about 6,000 square footage of the space.
between 6,000 and 8,000. But it does not have any specific information about what functions are actually going to be going on. When I follow up with them this week on that, I can definitely ask that as well. What the function, so just to be clear, you want to know what functions are going to be done. Is that shouldn't be separate from which area of OSSI or which department of OSSI will be.
On policy, function and number of staff, just how many people really going to be brought into the community. Count the policy.
Okay. Okay.
I will say, if it is public facing, it does help with the notion of getting more retail food places there. So, I mean, it's good and it's bad, but it will help attract, because you need office people so that these restaurants can have a steady base every day to feed from. So, I mean, it's just
Oh my
important.
gosh, they have a problem right now with 7-Eleven in the park. Go ahead, honey. Put it in the restaurant.
So what I'll do is this week again follow up, because I did send that message that you sent to me, Marla, before I went out of town. So I'll follow up with that, and once I receive a response, I'll send it to you, Shannon, and you can send it out on the listserv for Penn Branch. All right.
Shannon, point of order, please, ladies. Point of order.
Point of order.
In regards to the point of order, please. In regards to the 7B07 crime initiative, 7B crime initiative, I'd like to motion that Penn Branch join the initiative along with the crime initiative, along with the other leaders within the community. Does anyone second that motion?
Okay. Okay, next, quickly, Tawana, can you do the treasurer's report? And then we have some exciting news that Elson will announce, and then you guys can go ahead and head home. I'm holding you hostage.
Good evening, everyone. So on the current treasury report, this is the end of month of April expenses. And as you can see, we didn't get any donations. Right now, our PayPal account is having a few little problems. So Jacqueline and I have been working diligently with PayPal to try and get that fixed, because we do need donations for the yard sale and for the community day that will take place in the latter part of August. So currently, you can see I have put copies on the table. Membership dues are received in the month of April, $140. DPW committee report, we gave $100, which was approved by the president to clean up the 911 park and for a parking expense. We had the mailbox, the P.O. Box mailbox renewal, that was $79, and then an ATM fee to deposit, which is $1. So I'm going to try and start going into the facility versus using the ATM deposit and the monies received. So today we have a balance in the account of $2,509.41.
I move we accept the treasury report as stated.
Second.
So moved. Okay. All right, folks, I'll be real quick here. So as a follow-up to updates regarding Penn Branch Shopping Center, we've got the folks from Market 7 that helped to organize the Winter Festival and the kickoff for Planet Fitness. They will be starting the farmers market. And so we're working to get the certificate of need in terms of the permits for the farmers market. So hopefully it will start on the north end, actually the east end of the parking lot around the back. So it's the side that's closest to Branch Avenue. And then we'll be working obviously with the developer as they continue to build out the restaurant around the back. And of course working with Planet Fitness. And the hours would be 10 to 3. So definitely don't want it to be there too early. But we want the farmers market, which would include vendors from Ward 7, supporting the needs of our community. So at the end of the month, we'll put some information in the newsletter and then have the folks come out to present during our next meeting. They were supposed to come today, but as you know, we have a very full agenda. So next meeting, they'll be able to talk more about the farmers market. Thank you.
Thank you, Elson. Also, quickly, before we head out, there were some letters of concern submitted to the association in regards to the 7004 ANCC about the residency of Ms. McDermott. So on behalf of the association, we're acknowledging that we did in fact receive some letters of concern, and we will forward them to the proper channels so that they can take a look at them themselves. So we are stating, if I'm not sure if people want to know the details, but I can't go into it heavily, but it's in regards to the residency in which Ms. McDermott claimed to live at, and the letter is from a few of the residents stating that they do not in fact believe or think that she actually lived there. We will protect the confidentiality of those that submitted the letters to us. And again, we're acknowledging that we have in fact received the letters, and we will forward them to the proper channels. Okay?
Can I ask you, who is she?
The young lady that was just up here, Miss Nicole McDermott. Okay. Okay, there was also a question about newsletter information submission. You can forward any updates or any relevant news that you are excited to share with the community to Elson Nash. And he will be delighted to make sure that information gets into our newsletter. We this past letter announced some baby announcements, birthdays, and so forth, and we want to continue to have that connection with our community and announce things that are relevant to us and here in this community. Also, we have our yard sale coming up in June. Joan, is the 22nd, right?
June 22nd, yeah.
June 22nd. She, I think, has your son sheet in the back. And we are excited about that. We have our community day in August 18th? 17th. Okay. And we're excited about that as well. Yes.
One other announcement I wanted to make aware that former president of the association, Mr. Gilbert Bussey, passed.
Oh, yes.
And I believe it was Sunday, and the funeral is this coming Monday.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Gilbert Bussey passed on Sunday, and his funeral will be, what, Monday? Monday. I also will put that out on a listserv. We are very sad to hear. I did see an email about it, and, you know, we are sad to lose another member of our community. Everybody feels like family, especially when I see their faces here all the time. So if anybody get any further updates about his funeral or so forth, just please share with the community. So thank you guys. Get home safely. For our June last meeting, we wanted to do something not so formal and fun. So we have one or two options. we were either thinking of hosting something here and doing like how we did for Christmas and do like the potluck and everybody bring maybe like a summer dish, or we can host something at, we suggested Busboys and Poet in Anacostia because of course we want to support that business and we want to patronize them as well. So if you guys have any suggestions, just come up front, let me know what your thoughts are. We're just trying to get a handle on it as soon as possible.
Thai Orchid was also mentioned.
Oh yeah, and Thai Orchid was the third option as well. So thank you, and you guys get home safely. Meeting adjourned.